Episode 332. We're done talking about rules. Just kidding. Just a bunch of old people are done talking about rules. We got some young bloods. We got some hands players. Shockwave's back on the show, and he's going to talk us smart about why these rules may or may not be the best ever. Like and subscribe. Influencer shit. What's up? Shockwave, how you doing?
What's up, guys? Yo, I'm pretty chill. Well, not too much going on, you know. So I guess in some ways it's like, in some ways it's like a long off season, I guess. But yeah, I'm kind of getting eager, you know, to compete and scrim properly and stuff. So
it's a good sign. Always good to hear that, you know, after, you know, such a big, like, foundational piece of the esport, like the Overwatch League kind of failing, it has to be kind of a little bit detrimental to, like, you know, how people view things. But to hear that, you know, you're, you know, getting eager, getting that itch again, that's a good sign. It means that, you know, something about this is going right. So that's a good feeling. It's a good sign. Yeah. Yiska, how are we? What are we up to? How are things?
Pretty good. Also ramping up, like also done with off season. I'm looking forward to more and more teams, you know, announcing their rosters. Me getting to talk to the people that build them. I think increasingly this off season it will actually be players I will be talking to that will have created those, and then at best have shopped around to some organizations. We'll say I probably expected less commotion initially when it was announced on the transfer market. It has been okay, not great. Okay. But yeah, generally just, you know, having my ear to the ground on those things and waiting for everything to start up.
Beautiful. And the people who really have their ear to the ground are our patron producers. That's right. This episode is brought to you by the people who make this show possible. That's Battlecrab, Refine Bean, Bronze Babu, Howell, Lulshan, Rexane, Volamel, and Sugar High, and our YouTube members, IMDRW, Brother Adam L, ISMGL, Fire Element 6, and AK. So, Shockwave. These rules. We talked about them last week. We gave our old man opinion. What do we think about map vetoes? Do we like them? We don't. So what's good?
It's a bit I feel like when there's like new stuff happening, you always want to give a proper kind of prediction, you know, how it's gonna be.
Yes.
But I think many of these things with the patch as well, like if there's gonna be you know, big changes, and then sometimes, you know, I want to be a bit cautious maybe with, like, you know, trying to say how it will be, because I think, you know, I can't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, I really like the thing where a team can have strategies and then kind of play around that.
Yeah.
So if you can play around map vetoes and then kind of force, you know, like strategies and plays and like all the stuff that goes behind that, I'm all for it, you know. But then again, it's like when you have bans and stuff, it's the same with hero bans. It's the same discussion, right? If there's not a lot of maps, like sometimes that might be a bit of an issue as well, right? Like, okay, if you have, say, push map, you know,
right? Yeah.
Then, like, okay, what, you have one ban, then there's one option or two option or whatever, free. We'll see, you know.
You kind of just strike down to like the one neutral map, and you're just like, okay, I guess we'll play this one, and everybody just plays that one because it's kind of agreed upon.
Yeah, so I can see some ups and downs, but I'm all for like the more behind the scenes strategic stuff.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you think that the stuff? I mean, again, like you said, with such a, you know, with such a possible change incoming, obviously, you know, there was this leaked document about, you know, maybe what these balance changes could look like. I know that there was a developer that recently came out. This is being recorded as Season 9 just got teased rather. So we're still waiting on the balance changes officially. But like you said, with such big balance changes happening, with such a fundamental change coming with, you know, map vetoes, it is kind of difficult to tell. But would you expect from, you know, all the years scrimming, would you expect something like map vetoes to kind of like really shift people and push people towards more kind of like set strategies and more like tailored compositions to each map? Or do you think that it'll kind of go back to like Overwatch just being, you know, finding what works in scrims?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have to be depending a lot on like the skill level of players and their flexibility. But I think take a sample as the Western regions. I think even if dive, is meta, you will most likely probably just see someone forcing some hard macro meta like rush, or like London style, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if that stuff exists, map videos and such, I would hope that some teams want to be, like kind of innovative.
Yeah.
Make some crazy stuff. But I kind of feel like that it probably won't matter too much.
Yeah,
so.
It's just not enough maps in each pool.
Yeah. Also the diversity, I think escort is kind of like an exception because some escort maps is like very hard to force save rush, right?
Sure.
Like there's a big difference, but then you have like push, cough, like they're pretty similar in many ways, right? Pretty like flat maps and there's like ground objective and stuff. And
right.
So yeah. So with like the game modes we have and the maps we have, I don't think it will be like crazy change. So
okay. It is something that we talked about last week, Yiska, in regards to maybe setting up, stuff for the broadcast to kind of touch on. Is that maybe the biggest win here? Is that having a little bit more tangible things to speak on outside of just having some kind of like loose stat structure?
I mean, to be honest, the only way for that to ever become interesting is hero bans. Just in that type of way, right? Like if you're talking about a similar appeal as like, let's say, picks and bans in League,
right?
Or even item choices or something like that,
sure,
right? Like just something that is really like clean and systemic to talk about. I think the only way to do that is through the stuff that actually interests people, which is hero choice. It's not maps. I think most people really do not even have preferences for maps. They just play. And really what changes their experience is the hero they play. Therefore, like the hero bans would be much more important towards that type of discussion. I don't think people care that much. If it was ever to be really tangentially related to the types of heroes that would be played, I could see it more, but I feel like, especially within the relative map types, that is too seldom the case. And you kind of need the keys, you need to bring the knowledge yourself to understand where that would be happening, right? Like,
okay.
I think the only way for casters, for instance, to make that type of analysis interesting, and it's also a thing. I think analysis desks are also, for the most part, a thing of the past for us.
Yeah.
But if casters just in pregame talk want to make this interesting, it's probably the best way is to say, oh, they picked Ilios. Here we can expect XYZ hero, and then loop it back to the hero. Otherwise, nobody will give a shit. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it for sure comes back to just the diversity in the game modes. Like, you don't necessarily have dominant comps on each game mode,
Yeah.
So, yeah, heroes are definitely more, like, bigger in that discussion.
I do wonder, like, I think it is kind of, like, becoming more ubiquitous that, like, Europe in general is very, like, rush-centric, with London kind of, like, leading that charge and kind of, I don't know if we can kind of trace it back to them, but it does feel that way. I don't know if that's, do you feel like that's a correct read on things, sHockWave?
I think it started before that.
Okay.
I still think when they made OWL like NA only and they just bite, at least like a domino effect, I think. They just no support for EU, and then over time worse and worse and worse. And then you get to a point where you play ranked and you're better off just like locking hog and flanking because the level is so low. And then you have up and coming players, right? They're not like ancient dinosaurs from, like 9 years ago, whatever, right? So long ago. And there's no way that, these people are going to play monkey and try to force dive, that's just not happening. So, I think it's just from the general, like, the ranked, like the skill level, and then what people are forcing. Because if they compete in tier 2, obviously they're going to play the comp that they're most likely to win on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't think maybe you have some teams like we did it with Fusion Uni. I remember, like we tanked that, you know, like we were like, no, we're not really fully swapping, and you know, we ended up being insanely hard to play, right? Because it was like we played double bubble, right? Monkeys are into it. This like Orisa full counter comp, and we just have to play so perfect, and you know, they can just pull all the time. Orisa pull, or maybe they get a kill with that, you know. So yeah, I think it's just a general like skill of the region, because like you need good players on every role. Like you need you know, insane dive like character like monkey, you know, or maybe ball sometimes. Then you also need a flex support that's like a guard that can hit every nade.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you also need a main support that don't just get like run down and die. And then you need a guard tracer, you know, that don't just get random May one tap. So yeah, there's just so many things you need, right? So I think it's just a general like skill discussion, not necessarily like a one team like
Okay.
make an interest. So
the way that you paint it is kind of like a weird, like there's a bunch of like factors that kind of has kind of like funneled EU in a direction, but the kind of point there that it feels like, at least with more support being brought to EMEA in general, it does feel like there's like this third bubble that's opened up. You know, we have that APAC bubble that's like only playing dive. NA's doing some weird mix of both, but mostly, you know, kind of meta slaves, if you will. And then you have EMEA, which is now kind of this new bubble that's popping up that I feel like is going to have its own unique flavor to anything. So it feels like we're kind of getting this. It's not an injection of talent, but it's like an injection of supporting like differing ideas compared to like the East. Does that kind of make sense?
yeah, I can see that. I think I'm not sure how fast you will see some of those things. Like I can see maybe say in EU that it's well supported and you have new players like aspiring talent. Like they're not gonna be godlike at know, at the game very quick, right? Like so I could see it's more like a longer process, you know. Almost like if you started over the competition, you know, was from the start, right? Because EU were pretty good, you know.
Oh, 100%.
So if you have the support and then you have new players coming up and they're in an environment and they're like actually motivated to grind because there's, you know, a good rank system, and then they actually can qualify to tournaments and make money, you know, like all that stuff, then I think in the future we can, you know, maybe see more of that. But I doubt, like right now, you know, if we said we had a match tomorrow, you know, I doubt EU will play some like never seen, like, you know, double main support ball like crazy comps. So, yeah, but yeah, I think on the long run there can maybe be some stuff like that.
Okay.
I think
is it feel good, Yiska, finally having some support back at home?
Yeah, I would say I'm interested how things develop. I think we're like in Discord we had a bunch of like discussion recently about the relatively interesting demographic breakdown between games, because like recently someone put out some stats on League of Legends and it turned out like North American players hate playing competitive or ranked.
Oh yeah, they don't play ranked at all
in NA league, right?
Yeah,
and it like 15%. I think Harsha mentions like 15% of NA players play ranked. Only 15. In Korea, it's 70. Okay.
Yeah.
So like just that discrepancy in competitiveness is interesting to see. And then you look at the populations of the relative scenes as well, and even just EU and E, which is the eastern region of League of Legends, is as big as NA, okay? Or has as many active players, active accounts, right? So if you take EU West onto that, it's like twice the size of NA, okay?
Right.
Now, the interesting part is, if you look at the Faceit signups, there's more signups for North American
way more.
Yeah. Twice as many signups. Now, I think they posted. I saw Bailey post a comparison, or like 500 or 512 teams had signed up in NA. with a grain of salt, because a lot of people just placehold it. Like one guy creates a team, gets in. I think in the end, it's like 170 teams in NA, but it is still more than in EU right now, despite this being like a region of up to 2 billion people, not North America, right? But then again, like we actually don't have accurate stats on how many players of Overwatch there are, especially in Overwatch 2 in Europe, and how many of those are playing on PC, crucially, right? But it is interesting how there's a very different sort of demographic shift between NA and EU in comparison to other competitive titles. And you have to wonder if it's just because of the localization of NA for the longest part. So theoretically, if there was to be a roughly equal amount of interest in PC Overwatch still in Europe, it would stand to reason that the competitive aspect would increase as there's more visibility and status attached to it with the Overwatch Championship Series. And therefore, you would expect more and more talent to come out of Europe. I would say not. You would have to say EMEA, because it looks like, especially the EMEA region, is developing into one where it actually makes a difference to distinguish between just Europe and the EMEA region, because Saudi Arabian players are pretty good at the game, right?
Yeah.
And have some top tier talent. So that's exciting for the region. Another peculiar aspect is that Japan is the second largest Asian player base right now, judged by team signups. It's not a lot in general in Asia, right? Korea has I think 70 signups, and like Japan has 40. Now, okay, in terms of that being a representative amount and whatnot, and there being differences in terms of like how Wara GG tracks and how Faceit tracks, all good and fair, right? Like, don't take that as comparative numbers, but very few signups on Pacific in comparison. And you would have to wonder if the sheer lack of player base in Korea will eventually catch up to the point where some years down the line, everyone gets a little bit more competitive, especially as we see people as good as like Hamsters, like allegedly looking still for an organization, while some European teams and North American teams, of course, announced today, have already been signed, right? So there might be an economic difference coming to the system as well. And that could absolutely cause a system shock. You would also have to say that North American Overwatch, for the longest time, was propped up by top-tier European talent, right? Make no mistake. Definitely. They love to adopt top-tier European talent as
we got money, baby. We just buying everybody.
Somehow Envy was an American team. Somehow Kevster was American. Somehow Kai is American, right? Like, no. They are European and you paid, okay?
They're the red-blooded Americans, Yiska.
Right? So
they bleed red, white, and blue.
And, like, in my mind, just look at how much help the North American player has gotten throughout the entire duration of the Overwatch League. The shit they got, like, pumped into them in terms of resources.
Yeah, I mean, so many, like, in the last season, they got picked up just because they were American. Yes, they basically got picked up from their passport, you know? They didn't even care how good they were at the game.
I think Punk literally said, like, on record that, like, the only reason why he even got, like, an attempt to, like, try to, like, play for Boston was because during COVID, or was it during COVID, or was it, like, a legal thing from the Kraft group? One or the other. But, like, yeah, it was literally, like, the only reason why he played was because he had a U.S. passport.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Meanwhile, also like getting cushy academy teams, and then when the academy teams are no longer this collegiate, meanwhile European players are just like sharing a ramen package and then use the packaging as like, you know, like night blanket while they're sleeping on carton outside. Like, I think this will be a system shock eventually, right? Like how talent will develop. Also, let's be honest, having a LAN here will go a long way.
Definitely,
You would have to assume, if DreamHack is the eventual partner for the coming years, that hopefully there would be more major titles. Now, if you look onto the calendar of DreamHack, yes, they have a lot of international events. There's still a wider margin of European events, therefore increasing the likelihood of there being more than one European event, right? Eventually, if that was to be the case, right? So a lot of the competition is also happening in Europe, and the cost of living is much more affordable, depending on where you want to set up your base. So in terms of the economics, European players are going to be helped. The question really only is, are there organizations capable of paying living wages and being able to, support, maybe not fully, but at least someone that's driven enough to do a little bit on the side, I don't know, do content creation, or dare I say, have a second job, right? Like, it's going to come down to this. The thing is, North America, in terms of the collegiate system, I feel like that thing is not going to stop. I feel like someone kicked that off 5 or 6 years ago, and now the machine is rolling, and in a decade, maybe they will realize that Overwatch wasn't the thing they should have put in, but bureaucracy is lame, so administrations haven't factored in that the Overwatch League died, and therefore maybe that esports doesn't make much sense, right? Like,
from my loose understanding, when it comes to collegiate, these are like the best pay pigs imaginable, where they have like such a big marketing budget, and it's just like, is this title gonna like attract students to like want to come to my school, or at least like hear about my school, or like want to compete at my school? If so, then here's a bunch of money. Go do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Not just money, right? Like, they're the type of pay pig that pay you and then also explain you how you do your taxes. Basically.
And they're providing like actual resources. Collegiate for NA is what contenders probably should have been. It should have integrated with collegiate immediately, and now, with the format in the OWCS kind of like blowing up contenders, for lack of a better term, collegiate is going to be like a big opportunity, and hopefully there is some integration there with some of these top teams. Hopefully they can merge, mingle in some facet. But I think there's a lot of like really interesting points there with Europe when it comes to like the not only the lack of support, but because of that lack of support for so long, how that's impacted the OWCS season 1 turnout, right? These first events are going to take some time to kind of get people not back on the good graces of competitive Overwatch, but when you have stuff that's so like United States focused, so NA focused, I don't know, is it that crazy to think about how EU's kind of a little bit disenfranchised a little bit?
No, I think that makes perfect sense, and I will say also to the point about Korea and like their supporting the teams. I think it's like, if you look at who owned the teams, like that was all American, I mean, even when I was in Korea in 21, right? Like that was under Comcast essentially, right? Like that's that's not a Korean company last time I checked, So I think it's just many like they just imported like Koreans, right, to NA, and it was American, like it was basically American money, right?
Yes.
It was not Korean orgs or whatever. Like there might have been some in APAC. But towards the end here, like the biggest ones and the biggest spenders, right? They were in NA for sure. So I think it's maybe that's also a bit of I think like a pretty big factor in terms of like some of these Korean teams you don't necessarily see maybe that many sign-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
Just simply I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like if I was used to getting 250K, and then someone comes and offers me like 20K. 30K, I don't know, like really low.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, you'd be like, okay, come on. I mean, yeah, it's a bit. I can definitely see their perspective. But yeah, I agree in EU. Like, hopefully with time that they would be bigger and bigger, because I mean, generally, if you look at other games, like where it's genuinely supported and stuff, you just see like Counter-Strike. I mean, I'm a proud Dane, right? So I can flex a lot about Astralis and the impact that's had. But generally speaking, like I know if you go into like earnings and stuff from Western, I think Denmark is like number 4 in the world. It's
up
like
there,
Korea, China, NA maybe, and then like Denmark. which is absurd because we're such a small country.
Yes.
Countries like Germany, Sweden, but we're so insanely good at esports for some reason.
Little grinders, bro.
But then in Overwatch, well, what do you know? Like, I guess.
Well, okay. Whoa. Let's pump the brakes. I think there are so many good Danes out there, but again, the region has never been supported. So like you guys have never gotten a chance to like actually do anything.
I mean, I can't really speak from that World Cup we had. I don't think I have any like reason to brag about our country in that. Maybe like before there was an Overwatch League, there were at least one of good Danes. That's what I mean. Like when the support is there.
Yes, exactly.
I think that it can be so good because just look at like CS. There's so many. Like there's like North, right, and there's Astralis.
Heroic.
So many numbers. Heroic, right? Like crazy many. And then you go into League, and you can even look at NA, right? It's like Danish mid laner. Oh, Danish ADC. Oh, this guy is the highest paid. Oh, he's Danish. He's EU. I'm not saying Danish only, right? But there's a lot of imports, right? EU. Like it's not only NA. Because why they go to NA, because they have the big bucks.
We got money, baby.
As well. So, so yeah, I do think with enough support and stuff, I think EU can be definitely dominant. I mean, the World Cup is a proper example, right? Where actually I say that, but then I don't know because that Korea roster was also a bit of a Kappa roster.
This year, or rather last year?
No, this year.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think right now Saudi had any business beating a World Cup like Team Korea if that team was like properly made. I would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, just shows it. I mean, at least you can look at the NA team, right, or the Team USA and Saudi. I mean, there's not really too much going on there in that match. So yeah, I think genuinely, hopefully as well. With support and the scene developing in EU and stuff, I think for sure it can be high level and highly paid.
I think EU's like my massive cope. Like if I'm gonna cope about OWCS at all, it is like we are finally giving the starving artists, like these warriors that have been like fighting with absolutely nothing on the line, a chance to actually like make something. And possibly as OWCS grows, they can grow with it. Like that's my ultimate cope, is that we finally have like a third region that's like hyper competitive. We plug in China, we get a fourth region. Maybe 5 years down the road, we have like a stable like tier 2 esport, and that's great. But like it's gonna be a work in progress, it feels like.
Yeah, I think for me, the absolute biggest thing is just ranked.
Sure.
Because and I just saw like the stuff. My two biggest things was rank reset. Like ASAP, they should have just done it with OS2. I don't know how you can make a quote new game. Like they label it as number 2, and then you just transfer everything. Yeah. I mean, maybe cosmetics because maybe some people are mad they spend a shit ton of money, and like I get that, but like the progression, I don't know. It's just let people grind. Like they're gonna spend more time with the game if they have to go through all that again. Like
it's true.
So yeah, rank reset. I've been a huge advocate for that. And then the second thing I saw was the weapon skins. And I don't know how many times I've said that as well and how long, because
I remember
that's the stuff people care about. Now, I really hope that they don't just make all of these able like in a shop where you can just buy them.
Yeah, it's like competitive reward, right?
They need to make it so insanely like hard to get some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if you win, say, OWCS 1.
Why not? Yeah.
You get like your team. They decide like it can be so many things they can make, right? But genuinely weapon skins, right? Because what you're seeing in game is like in CS. No one really gives a shit about how you look, like your character.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about the weapon you're holding and using. And then actually, I want to say they have made some crazy good art. Like they have crazy good skins in this game.
Yeah.
But the main issue is just I'm not gonna use a skin where I can't see half my screen.
Yeah.
Because all the legendary skins, they're so decorated, and there's so much in your face. So honestly, I think those two things, like, because I think some people they really underestimate. If I'm a new player coming in, because I remember myself when I started, I think I didn't really play but I played maybe like a couple of hours season 1 or whatever.
Sure.
When you had golden guns on like multiple characters,
Yeah.
Because that was only a high rank that got a lot of points. So you were like, damn, that's cool. And I can't buy that. Okay, that's a grind. It's a flex.
Yep.
And that stuff is almost more motivation.
Oh, 100%.
Than money. Like,
yep.
It is crazy motivation.
You don't have to buy it. It's just
Yes.
about the time you invest, and again, you still get that social flex. And Yiska and I have talked about this from like other Blizzard games. Other Blizzard games do this shit. How the fuck have we not implemented this in Overwatch yet?
No. Yeah, but yeah. Those are rank reset for sure. Get people to respect rank, and then that like the fact that right now at GM1 or top 500 whatever can queue with a GM4. That's just like
the min-maxing shit.
I mean that's just crazy. You know, like that's too far, like skill level in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just reset the whole thing. Like all these old. How can you have like old accounts from like 2-3 years ago in Overwatch 1? They haven't played Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
First game they played, they're in like a GM lobby. That's just I mean that's just not right. So yeah, I think for sure those two things are the I would probably say main thing. Like proper incentive to play, but then also rank, because I think you mentioned league and stuff. If people had fun playing and it was stacked and it wasn't like one tricks and like garbage like that, I think people will genuinely play a lot of ranked, But then also the incentive, because I mean, you see people, they've been like ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, and it's like, okay, like surely this is not right. So yeah, proper incentive like that. Good rank system. You play versus actual human beings in your own rank, and with human beings, good players. And then the weapon skins, I can't like push that enough. But please make it like, I just pray they make it, some of them like limited edition, or how to obtain like the one in the highest rank, he gets a special one, and then that random dude in gold, like he does not have like the right to get the same skin.
No.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I mean,
it should be top 500 gets like a special weapon skin at the end of the season. If you can maintain a 1 in 500 spot, you get like ruby weapon skins, or you get like a new like season. I don't know. Figure it out. But I agree. Yeah.
Look,
100%.
like even take it off the achievements, because you know some achievement hunting lord will be pissed that they have to get rank 1 in order to get all the achievements or something. Right? Just take it off that. I don't think competitive players care that much. They just want the exclusivity of the skin. Let the collectors collect, get that onto a different system, and we can all have fun with it, right? Like,
yeah. I think that's been missing for a long time. Because you only had like the MVP of Owl. They got their own skin. Like that's one person. What about like the winning team?
Yeah.
Like I know, how they're doing in league and stuff. Like everyone is like, oh, what character is their skin? Blah blah. And then like that also supports the team. So then on top of that, that's even more incentive for Oryx and team to win the whole thing, because it's even more marketing in the game. Like it's just there's so many, like you go down a rabbit hole of just like positive, business opportunities as I see it. So yeah, please don't have like the whole inclusive like mentality that everyone's gotta be able to have the same skin and stuff. I think that really kills it for a lot of people, especially like with rank and stuff. But
I also think you don't need to do too much. Like I think like asking, for instance, like for the Overwatch CS winner to get like something that's akin to a mythic skin or something is bullshit.
No.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
I honestly think like if you could just like, even as a meme, it works pretty well in terms of just getting guns. And then you could say, this guy has 3 guns, instead of 3 rings or whatever down the line, right? So like have these, maybe you can even give them out for mages or whatever. And I assume that would take much less effort to push through the art department, which admittedly also now, of course, is decimated, which one should be mindful of. But yeah, just I think that as long as you have prestige that is visible, but also make it like less effort for the designers and developers to get that out, that's optimal. You just want the status symbol. You do not necessarily care too much what it looks like.
I think that's what like is so like utterly frustrating about like the direction, and like there's obviously like touch points with like the ideas that like the original like dev team held and like wanted to kind of make Overwatch into this type of game, and it just like was never gonna work that way. It's always just frustrating to see across the pond when it comes to like other Blizzard titles that have these systems, looking at how they started and how they've ended up becoming like minor recolors with like some additional art assets added to them and like only given to like the top 1%. I'm talking about like the World of Warcraft like gladiator mounts. Like originally they weren't like super crazy detailed. Now they're insanely like chase items. They're so like there's a ton of like investment from the developers and the art team put into those because they're so like appreciated and like lauded after.
And that's like that's I mean that's the single main reason people grind like games like that, MMOs, and like getting that grinding to get that rare item is like the whole purpose, like of the thing. If everyone could get that mount or
not
like skin or loot or whatever, I like reckon like that game would just be dead in like a day, like.
That just happened with I think Riot's card game. They tried to make this like super like, and card game aficionados, correct me if I'm wrong, but their whole like marketing scheme was that like you know it's really easy to like make all the cards and play with all the cards, and the game basically either had to go through like a business update and like rethink their strategy, but like there is this weird human programming flaw that like we hate all of the resources just being handed to us. We really, really like to just work at shit. We gotta grind.
I want to say though, I think it's also important because I think was there some numbers like leaked how much, maybe it was not Overwatch, but how much they earned. Like, I mean, I know for a fact, like, don't make it wrong. Let's say, quote, not. I don't want to say like normal people. I want to say maybe non-pro.
Sure.
Like almost everyone that plays the game, pretty much, right? Like, of course, like they spend money on this stuff. I think many of us that like watch esport and like in the esport mindset, like we don't really care about these skins, but like they make a lot of money. But
definitely,
it's just the whole like it's just a bonus if you have the whole pro scene and rank players and such. When you get up in rank, like maybe it's a small niche, but the marketing value they have.
Yes.
Because those are mainly in Overwatch like the streamers and like the people like everyone sees, right, on media and such.
Yep.
There's like a couple streamers that maybe isn't like the highest rank, but generally speaking throughout the time it's been like pros and like high ranked players, right? So even them having a visible like rare flex or whatever, it's just infinite free marketing. Like it's just I don't see a downside to it. And I think in the trailer they were like some like limey or like emerald green looking
jade
skins,
weapons.
like jade, something like that. And honestly, even if it's the default weapon, reskin like that,
I'm
totally fine with that. Like it's glittery, it's shining a bit. That stuff is enough, for me.
Yeah.
Because you just see a default, but then you see like the shining gun is like a different color.
It's like, eye-catching too. Like, can you imagine just running around and like seeing a tracer and that like glint of like green? It's like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
For like a casual viewer, like you don't know. And it's like, oh, dang, like they must have had like a lot of competitive points, just like how it was like you were talking about, like back with like the golden weapons. It's like, oh shit, like, dang, homie's grinding.
Yeah,
must be pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important. But of course, don't make it only like that.
Yeah.
Of course, just have like people be able to buy skins and such. So
that's again, it feels like they're budging a little bit. Hopefully, it's received well by the community. I think that a lot of the competitive scene will appreciate this. It may not be necessarily super. If we go back to the competitive points or what have you, I think there will be some pushback. But now casual fans have the mythic skins and they're really fucking cool. Like mythic skins are sick. Totally. Like this Moira skin, super dope. But you have to have something that, competitive players can just grind for. And like you said, it doesn't have to be anything major, but it just has to be different enough that it's going to catch people's attention. It's going to catch their attention, and they're going to want to sink hours and hours and hours into it.
Yeah.
Totally. Yiska?
Yeah.
We like guns?
I think like the only thing that I would have to say, if there were to be championship, Overwatch CS
sure,
World Championship skins, even if you don't put much effort into it, like I think everyone appreciates a thoughtful skin. Yeah. As in like, give me the idea that you actually maybe were even in the arena and looked at the context of how the championship was won. and then find some symbolic representation. Like some of the coolest shit in CS is just like the small nods to competitive like excellence, like the little sprays that you will find on Mirage or whatever, and you know, like the simple flying up thing and those things. It doesn't have to be super, you know, out there.
Yeah.
Just a small acknowledgement where people feel seen in terms of their respective accomplishments. And I think that as like a nod to the competitive community, it's fine when nobody else gets this, and if only the people that are in on the joke get it, right? That's completely fine. Doesn't have to be much. Like maybe it's, I don't know, like you make a championship skin and like proper kills 5 to 1v5, and you have 5 X's on his Cassidy fucking revolver or whatever, right?
Right.
Whatever it is. Like some small nod where like you actually feel like the developer could be part of the esports system. That's one thing. I watched Platcha at Valorant, and Leo Faria, the global head of Valorant esports, was on there, and he basically said like, well, we really don't differentiate between the esports team and the development team that much anymore. We're in the same boat. We're developing an esport, and it's like, fucking hell, I just want like one guy to look at the stream every once in a while, you know?
That's the difference when you have a game that is meant to be competitive. Like when what was it, Pride, or what, I don't remember what the beta name was, but like when Valorant was first hitting like that beta test, like it was very clear that this is a game that is meant to be competitive. There's no like story behind, like there is, but it's not the focal point. The focal point is like 5 people on that side, 5 people on this side. You guys are going to shoot each other, and one of you is going to win. Like that's it. There's no PvE. There's no like hoopla about any fucking story bullshit. It's just you guys fight and you figure out who's the better team. And that lends itself, I think, to, you know, being more in line with esports, where it's been from day one that Overwatch has been kind of floating between and flirting with the idea of like, how big can we make the IP? Do we make like the story mode stuff? Like, do we invest our time in doing other stuff and fun shit and like competition? It's you know, it's there. And I think we're getting closer and closer to it as, you know, some of the older development team definitely hindered that. But it is sad, but again, that's kind of the hope for this year, is that we're kind of course correcting. As slow as it has been, we're course correcting, and like you said, Yiska, a bunch of people did just get laid off, so a lot of that progression that we're making is going to be slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's I think we talked about this and a couple shows prior to like all the rankings and whatnot, which we'll still do. Don't worry, guys. It's a TBD. You know, this year was going to be kind of a slow reset. A lot of things are kind of restarting, resetting. There's some good stuff that's happening, but it's a stepping off point to kind of grow into the future of what competitive Overwatch is going to be. So we will see. It is to be announced. We've gone through the rules for the most part. Any other rule set stuff that you're kind of interested in? sHockWave, anything there? Anything that's kind of hitting the scrim market that you guys changed?
Let me ask this, because we're on the topic of skins. Sure. Do you care that they are enabled?
Oh, true.
Well, skins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I think it's fine, because you have funny. They don't really like. I mean, okay. The only issue if it's like visual changed, because I know, you know, in League there are many skins that change the visuals, so maybe some might be
have like a minor competitive advantage.
Exactly, but in Overwatch there's like 5 maybe. There's like a couple like All-Star. There's like the Fire Genji, the Water Tracer, and then there's like a couple Mythic skins.
Yeah.
That has some recoloring, but it's not like, you know, if you carry ult, you know, with the Mythic skin, that stuff is, you know, more or less the same, I think. But yeah, as long as there's not like a crazy visual clutter and stuff going on, like if there's like some reskin of Symmetra where her wall is, you know,
oh god,
crazy sparkling or something, like maybe not that, right? That might affect it. But yeah, no, generally not, because I think there are some stories. There's like with the CS with skins or League, like there's always like this guy is like has played with this skin always, or there's like small side like stories like that, So yeah, I'm all for that. I don't see in a game like Overwatch and the skins we have, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's another. I think it is kind of weird to harp on this, but it is, esports is, and it probably is going to be for a long time after this, going through this big recession in esports. It is the marketing arm for the game. So what better way to have like this product that people are watching the game than to sell skins and be like, oh, I didn't know that skin was out, or I so love that skin, I gotta check it out in the shop when it's on rotation or whatever. Like, it's a way to sell the product that is, the most, probably beloved in Overwatch, and that's the skins. So makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, my dream is that you can select your skins, but then you don't have the weapon, right? Like you have your say own, like, I mean, that's like the dream for me, I would say, because there are some cool skins that maybe you would like to play with, or like you like the model, like how it looks, etc. But then you have an ugly legendary like reskin of your weapon, and even though it's not an added hitbox, like some of the things, like it's not actually the hitbox that's shown like on the skin, but like if you like let's say you play Ash, right? And then the scope is like
I was
so
just gonna bring that up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you don't even want to shoot it like anyone with that. Like you just don't want to.
It's just annoying to look through, and it's cluttered, and it's just like, I wish it wouldn't. Like you said, wouldn't it be nice if I could have like my favorite Ash gun, but have the cosmetic that I want?
Yeah,
because there are she's a big proponent. She's like a big like sore spot when it comes to those like reskinned legendaries. That it is like, oh god, this gun, like the reticle, like the ADS version of that gun is kind of shit sometimes, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's my dream with that for sure.
I feel like that's like achievable, but it's just gonna hopefully take time. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I feel like we always say that, but
yeah, I mean, I obviously don't know, with the programming and coding or whatnot, if you can just deselect and select, I think it doesn't work like that. It's also probably gonna clip in, like I'm sure these models are like attached properly to the weapon and stuff. So yeah, there's stuff to do, but that's at least like the customized weapons and or those first, I think, and then the other stuff after.
Yep, 100%. All right. Yiska, you did kind of touch on this, but there have been a couple of teams announced, and I kind of wanted to loosely go through those and kind of get everybody's general reaction. Friend, fan, maybe not so much. I don't know if Chris likes us too terribly much, but Christopher announced the London Spitfire 2.0 with We Spitfire, Hottie, Backbone, Sparker, Landon, Funny Astro, Chris's coach. Pretty damn good team, right? Pretty, no slight to the replacement or the replacee, but adding a Funny Astros, so we do love that, right? It's pretty good. This team's looking pretty solid, right?
Yeah, for sure. Not much to say about the team. That team is obviously going to be solid. So
I think like one has to be interested how it works with London, of course, because it's presumably going to happen on ping, right? From what I remember from the rules, the servers are hard enforced on Netherlands. I can't imagine EMEA players will be like, yeah, let's all set. What's the ping threshold tool called? Where everyone's
minimum latency.
Yeah, minimum latency. I don't think anyone will into that. Everyone's just going to connect to Netherlands, and that will be it in terms of ping management. So I think Landon would be on the East Coast, but I could be wrong. So yeah, that's about 100 to 120, depending on the weather. Not really,
honestly, yeah.
But that's going to be interesting going forward. And then I mean Astro. I'm not sure what Admiral is doing. That
I think collegiate.
Collegiate, okay.
He's like with the lethal, aerial. I think he was with Landon, maybe.
Okay.
Was he on some other team? But I think Lana was more like open to stuff. I mean, I think he's also a pretty desired player, right? So.
Yeah. Who's this other guy that is coaching with Chris?
Is that like a manager? I don't know.
Maybe just manager.
Yeah.
Who knows though?
Oh.
Oh, assistant coach.
Assistant coach.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Eastern Michigan University. Okay.
Eastern Michigan, really? That's odd.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Have to get in touch.
Maybe it's just an NA connection.
Could be. Yeah.
Commander X replaced. Uncoachable in shambles.
Uncoachable. Oh no! How quickly they burn out. Hopefully not. That show is content. You're obviously, did listen to your episode. It was quite fire. The whole show is just such a needed addition to this scene. So
yeah,
love those guys over there. Another one, obviously, you talked about Defiant. I said this in our Discord. Also join community members. Shout outs. It feels really difficult to look at this Defiant roster and be like, ho hum, man, this team is gonna be bad again. But somebody kind of instantly chimed in and was like, don't we say that every year? We look at like the AT core coming in this year and we're like, oh, this is the year that Toronto isn't fucking mid, and they're fucking mid.
Finally.
Finally, they have a good team. Thank you, God. They have opinions about how they've run their shit. They've bled Overwatch for so long. They kind of need at least a decent team. And am I getting honey dicked again? Is this a trap? Shockwave? Is this a solid team?
Yeah, I think they're clear favorites. I think the only weakness I see is maybe backline.
Okay.
I think everything else is looking pretty solid. I want to say though, I think many, especially in the West. So my prediction kinda is like, as I said earlier, that it's mostly leading to like watch Rush or something.
Sure.
This is like a heavy macro meta. So most of the time, it might actually depend on the coach.
Okay.
Because I think also some of these Mayhem players and such, like it would never been the same without Gunber. Like some of the ways he plays, maybe say Escort, some of the comps he did there and stuff. So I think it will be winnable for, I think there's that other team like Kalush.
Yep.
Seeker, so on 3, maybe UV. Yeah, that like there's like basically that other good team. But I think maybe then maybe a third team. I don't know if like what mixes they're really doing. I don't think there's been announced like others like that. But I think at the end of the day, most teams can actually win by macro in those comps. Like, but then being like, I think these guys also kind of know how to play the game, right? Yeah, I think they're clear favorites, but I don't think it's like it's just like a free win like that. With that like in mind, that it's more of a heavy macro meta than say mechanical, because obviously who in NA is gonna match someone if they play Winston,
Yeah, honestly.
In my head, like that's a free win, right? Like that is a free win for them. But if they're in a rush mirror and such, then yeah, I can see it. So yeah, there's the Sam Seeker UV liar. So
again,
I mean, you look at that team, right? And then you think, okay, let's say you go break Anna, Sombra, Swissa, or whatever, like dive or whatever. Like yeah, I don't think they win that. But rush, yeah, for sure.
That's like, as we see it now, you know what I mean? Like if the devs have already talked about like, oh, big balance changes, and obviously we've touched on some of that leaked content that was out there, and whether or not that's all true, we're gonna have to wait and see. And I'm not gonna hit you with those. So what's the next meta, Shockwave? It's we don't know what the next meta could be. Is there a world where like the Kalush stack is a little bit more like meta dependent, whereas maybe Toronto is more flexible? They can do the monkey stuff. They can play rush to like some degree, but maybe aren't the best rush team. Like which of these teams do you feel like is the most like stable as we're going into like such a possibly big patch?
I mean, I probably still think it's probably Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're gonna be the best of like new patches and stuff. I think probably from the get-go. But then as time moves on, I think it's general results of that, right? When there's a long-standing meta where you have, say was like a jungle queen or whatever. Like you would have some of the like at the start, the top teams are at the very top and the bottom are like far bottom. And then it just gets like it gets closer and closer and closer because everyone learns the macro. And these like you can't do crazy plays on say jungle queen, Like you don't just walk in and one shot a soldier like that, Like the only real like mechanical probably like skill shot is like your knife. It's like okay, like not too much to do with that, right? So yeah, I think at the start for sure they will be top. I mean, and they got so many metas covered, right?
Yeah.
But I think the interesting, yeah, we'll see. And then obviously also match, Maybe there's some chokers. I don't think there's chokers on that team. I don't.
Maybe so not. You're saying they've replaced the chokers? Is that what I'm hearing? They got rid of them. You can play the fifth if you want.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily. I mean, it's hard to say because I haven't really played, with many of the NAs. Sure. I think also that choker stuff is more of a meme now.
No, of course.
But I'm just saying, on match day in comps like that. I mean, if it's a sim mirror, like there's so much random stuff happening in that comp, like random one shots and stuff. So yeah, but that is just I think the only way I see this team not being top.
Can I ask, because like it feels like this is obvious, like Kasaurus had a lot of time to build this team. He probably is able to provide the most comprehensive package in Overwatch Esports, maybe, to players. I think there are other players that will eventually come forward, but they come attached with other baggage. So Kasaurus, it feels like he probably could just pick, a la carte. Now,
yeah.
Would, in that world where you're Kasaurus, would you, and also given that you're the resident hitscan specialist, would you use a slot on merit?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually, because I'm still if there's good offers, kind of down to play whatever region. Probably mainly NA and EU, because I think NA is a bit dry on hitscan. Like there's not too many.
Sure. Yeah.
As I guess Hydron just announced, but he was kind of AFK, and I guess he was streaming. But I think there's him and then Seeker, which are like pretty good.
Mm.
But I think it was like, yeah, fairly dry. And I think when you get these players, I think you gotta also judge their personality, because you can take someone that's like crazy good mechanic and stuff, but he doesn't fit in the culture and speak English,
Right.
But I think Merit, they were in Saudi together as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was Merit in Saudi? I think he was, right? Or was that Checkmate?
I think
he was, right?
Was also.
No, I think it was Merit and someone on some team. But if I was making a team, I think that's a big like thing, because the fact that he would do that like kind of shows that he's not this like, I love Korea, I don't want to stay, and he's gonna get homesick after 2 months, like that's happened a couple of times before for some teams, right? So I think for sure, and I would say maybe smartest hitscan up at the top with currently, maybe with Lip, and then of course Shy is also crazy good. So yeah, I think probably Merit is worth. I think
the argument that I saw raised is that they, like others said, they'd rather get a flex DPS in, because the gap between Sugar Free and the best flex DPS in the world is larger than the gap between, let's say, Seeker or Hydron and Merit. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Nah, no, that's Kappa. Yeah, no, Merit is, no, Hydron and Seeker, they're any like dive comms and other like Rust, like they're lost compared to Merit. I think this guy is like crazy smart on some of these. Maybe they can like slightly maybe catch up, whatever. But yeah, but then again, I also, I think it's, but who would they like realistically get? Like that's not...
you're paying big bucks for a flex DPS because that's like
Stalker. Let's say you get Stalker instead of Sugar Free and go Seeker.
Yeah, but then it's like, how does that guy act, like
is
with a
that a
mixed
culture
team?
fit?
Right.
Is there like culture mismatch? Like where I think someone is like a, that's a no-brainer.
Easy.
And then I think you just
What about Checkmate instead of Sugar Free?
Yeah, but then you're also, I think Checkmate is insanely good for sure. But yeah, I just don't think the gap is like
okay, fair.
That crazy big compared to the hit scan. So
I think like in my mind, the problem that you always run into, and that's not a problem with Checkmate, but maybe with most other flex DPS, is you're actually running into issues with personality, which are exacerbated by being in a hybrid team with currently, as we see, no real coaching from the Korean side, right? So it seems like you struggle to find like a top 5 flex DPS that wouldn't cause those issues, seemingly, right? Like, I think you would have to either go to Checkmate or to Zest in order to feel good about it, right? Confidently to be any cultural fit in any way, right? And who knows if they're available. Also, Sugar Free, I feel like because of how his career went, there's reason to believe that he still is hungry. To a degree, and like, I mean, there are other reasons, potentially, especially like if you can compete for a world championship here, who knows if the Esports World Cup comes in, what the prize pool looks like there, what your share of that is, like that's a carrot, right? And to join up essentially with the Mayhem core is pretty big, right? Let me ask this. Is this not just a worse version of Florida Mayhem?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're just missing Chorong.
Yeah,
right.
So, but I mean, I think that's like the only like question is like Vega, because he wasn't in the league, right? I mean, he probably could have been if there was like some dumb stuff with age and stuff.
You remember that?
But yeah, that's like the only. I think everyone kind of knows how good the others are.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe to like many people in public, they don't like know too much about Vega in like real competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I say real competition as in in tier 1. Not contenders. So, but I mean,
20 cases
but then
in contenders.
I think, oh my god. Well, guess there's a party here. No, I think then again, like main support is like, okay, that that role, like you kind of don't want to spend the import slot, right?
Most, yeah.
On main support, even though they are really important. Every role is important for sure, but yeah, that one you're probably better off taking a DPS. So
very fair.
I think looking very solid. So, and I think it's important with the culture as well. These guys get together, and I mean, we know that someone obviously like that guy can work with Westerns for sure.
Yep. 100%. And any NA bias fans out there, pump the brakes. Hamsters is still maybe potentially looking as a team. I think Fearless just put out like a LFT tweet. Who knows what's going on there? I think there's another. I think the Neko stack. Are they still together? Aren't they still together? I feel like this is a TMZ episode of the podcast. Who knows? Kevster still TBD. What's going on with like a EU super team with him as like the lead? Who knows? Like, it's still early days of a lot of these teams coalescing and figuring that out. So this may look good now, but like we have in seasons past, as it starts to funnel out towards start date, maybe Defiant goes back to being mid. It's hard to feel that way. At least when you look at NA, but in the global scale, we'll see. I don't know.
I doubt it. I feel like just look at what they did in Saudi. Like,
fair.
Just take like names you'd never heard in your life. Like maybe some of them maybe I have heard, but like general.
Yeah.
probably because like Rupa and Sugarfree and Vega, obviously most people in esports know those guys, but some, you know, I don't want to say random from Saudi, but let's say not the same caliber of players, right?
Sure.
And they were hard, like, I mean, they were putting up a pretty good fight with what they got, right? So yeah, I'm struggling to see how they could fuck this up, you know. But yeah,
hopefully they don't. Hopefully they at least make it out of NA and they can get to, you know, a LAN, and they should be able to do it, right? There's not too many more NA teams out there that I feel like you can mix around, but that's where my brain's at, is like, okay, if they're a shoe-in for LAN and we're going like international and we're broadening that scope a little bit, it's like, dang, like, all right, Steam is good, but like, how good, like, are they like competitive with Spitfire 2.0? I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
Could be close.
I
Depends on the meta.
hard meta dependent.
Yeah.
Hard meta dependent, yeah. So
yeah, I feel like
that's the fun of it.
For their team specifically, they got 3 best in slot players, is how I think of it.
Okay.
Right? Like, because I think you do not want necessarily a flex support if you want to maximize import slots. You get the best Western flex support, or rather North American flex support, because that's relevant, right? Like EU players would also count towards the import slot. You get someone that's best in slot for tank with Smurf. Yeah. Especially also as a cultural fit and as like a leadership personality, and someone you don't have to, you know, really take care of the mental of. Rather, he will help your team with mental. And then Merit, who's, I mean, I'm not sure if that's actually best in slot. It might be Lip still, right? But pretty close. And also as a cultural fit, arguably better than Lip. So just in these terms, and then also I would argue it's hard to find a better North American flex DPS than Sugarfree.
Yeah.
And then Vega is just the thing is, what we have to say about Vega is, as Kasoris revealed on Uncoachable, they've been trying to get this kid for a while, right? Like they wanted him during last season, and then he was eligible, and then he wasn't, and then he was in a super position, and basically Sean Miller Oppenheimer nuked that contract, and then that guy never got into the league, right? Practically. So will be interesting to see if he is that hot as the offers between Shock and Toronto seem to suggest. But yeah, I think this is a team where if you fail here, if you do not get top 2 in NA, I would say, you probably need an exorcist, not even like a better roster building strategy.
Honest to God, yeah.
Yeah, that's criminal, I would say.
A little bit. Feels like it. 100%. All right. Any final thoughts? Any concerns?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like, I mean, I guess like a little bit about like the patch and stuff, you know, but it's very vague, like, because no one knows how it's gonna play out. So, and it's not fully announced, and it's like it's leaks, but it's probably true because they did announce like the health region stuff. So there's
right,
maybe some merit because of that. But yeah, I think if I want to make like one prediction or whatever, it's like it's probably just more rush or something. I don't like. I'm trying to think how the numbers work, you know, because I'm looking. They just give everyone extra HP, but they don't give every character extra damage.
Right.
You know, so that means in my head at least, like one shots and stuff, and like all that stuff is not really that good or necessarily there. And then it's gonna be more the AOE healing and the cluster and like the, you know, the rushes we know it, because I don't see any crazy changes to BAP healing, you know, and lose your aura or something. So, so yeah, but you never know. Like honestly, it's so hard to predict. So I'll say overall, at least in the West, I think we're looking at some rush type.
Back to the death ball. Back to the run it down.
Yeah, I don't know about Moira, but I think we're looking at some like Lucio, Bab, maybe Lucio or something. Some AoE healing. You know, just win with old combos, whatnot. So yeah, hard to say though.
Yeah, I feel like Yiska, we talked about last week about like recapturing like the more competitive audience and less like the weird like chipping away more at the like the fandom focused approach of the Overwatch League. Do you feel like there could be more strategic balancing to make the game a little bit more explosive, or less trying to not have too many like rush or death bally metas? I feel like that's kind of like...
Okay, I'm not 100% how those two things correlate, but I will say that I think they just have hard data on what people like, and they're just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. I think this radical type of innovation finding strategy is great.
Sure.
Without even talking about what, going to nitty-gritty of what the changes are, I just enjoy that it is this heavy-handed, or rather this significant, and then you can still revert or cut the fat off what you do not like about certain things. I think they have probably pretty good data on what kind of gameplay is liked by the general player base. I think self-sufficiency is a big one. Which is why I never saw the issue with the passive heal stuff. And then, the time to kill stuff, that's a flavor thing, not my cup of tea. I actually always enjoyed one-shots. But we'll see where things go. I think it's also everyone's capping who believes they have an idea how this game will play without having touched it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's one hero where the 4 abilities, and everyone's like instantly like broken, whatnot, and then it's Life Weaver.
Yep.
You're telling me you can foretell the entirety of Overwatch being changed to that degree when you cannot forecast if Life Weaver will be strong? That's no. You got to see it, and you got to see it thoroughly. I think it will go the natural progression of first week everyone's going to POG. Second week, everyone's going to like, this actually kind of sucks. And then by week 4, everyone hates it just per se. But the underlying emotion, especially of the normie crowd, will be the judge of how successful this really redesign is. And then it's going to be interesting. I think the progression stuff in terms of like seeing it will go a long way, because I think... The ranked system was never that accessible to folks, so I'm looking forward to that. The rank reset, I'm not sure if it's going to be like how hard of a reset it would be. If it will be actually tabula rasa, everyone starts on the same MMR, or if they have just like a soft reset in there.
I kind of think so. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell because in the trailer they tease it like visually, where people's rank are like deteriorating, or it's like going down, and then it ends up being like just nothing. It's like it goes like all the way down to bronze, or the lowest is, and then it just that rank pops as well, and then there's like just an empty rank. So hopefully, I'm praying for that. I really do.
It would be good stream content for the first week when every streamer can in good conscience.
Like, it's just, it's just the results. Look at when Overwatch 2 was like announced, like. Or when the open beta and the streamers were streaming it, that stuff, like it did like world records almost on Twitch or whatever it was. And then it's like, there's only quick play. Okay, 2 days later, poof, like you're like down like 90% of like the 1.7 or 2 million viewers or how many it was, And then when rank comes out, and it's like, okay, maybe you have some of them. I think it was like maybe like Summit, 1G, maybe Soda was playing with, maybe Tim the Tatman, like there's some huge streamers that come from Overwatch, like crazy big XQC. It's just ranks are like transferred. They're gone in 1 day.
Don't care. Didn't ask.
Some of the boosted guys, one tricks, all that shit. Like, So
that
I'm just praying, man. I am just praying. I really am.
I've always kind of pushed back against like the pro idea of like, we need a rank reset. Like all my games are so shit. I've always been like, okay, like, is that really a solution? I think this conversation has definitely opened up my mind to the angle that like semi-regular rank resets give like grinders, like professional players, literally just something to do. So they're staying within the esport. And that's something that we could have benefited from since day one. So like I'm all for that. I just don't know if it's necessarily going to fix like the top.
The problem is like that a lot of people just express that it feels like all their progress is just being reset when you're grinding for the last couple of MMR to make diamond instead of plat, and then the rank resets and you're gold again. And that feels deflating, you know?
I almost, and again, it's not a direct comparison, but it almost feels like that card game shit where it's just like, oh, it's so hard to get all the cards and make the decks that is like meta and whatever. It's like, I think that's part of it. I think that is like a minor, like there's like a vocal minority that is impacted, and I feel you. It does suck to like have to work so hard to get something and then have it reset. But there again, I feel like there's just something like embedded in our DNA that just like wants to like work at stuff and like wants to chip away at shit. And I feel like that's what we need. Kind of.
If you add like, you know, proper stuff you can get, you know, like
exactly.
say, like the weapons reserve, if you have that as well, then it's like people will go crazy for it. And I think like with rank reset, especially when there's a huge patch, like if it's gonna be this big, I think it's also a good time to do it instead of like, oh yes, Orisa's health nerf 50, poof, rank reset. You know, like this will be like a good way, I think. So much stuff like people are figuring out like, and then stuff will work. You don't have to be a necessarily meta slave, you know, especially like a new game releasing almost. Hopefully, is what it's gonna feel like.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if what they said about stacking. I think there are like some.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was rumors or if they announced that they were like kind of bringing it back or if like separate, but stuff like that, you know.
That'd be big.
I mean, I remember still when Rollcube Beta was out and they made a mistake, where they reached everyone's rank, you know.
Yeah.
I think could you stack? I think you could stack. I think I'm not too sure, but I remember something like at least like playing with a lot and you would get these like crazy lobbies, you know. And it'd be so fun. So yeah, I'm just really praying hard there's a reset, and then like let people, you know, figure out the meta and stuff, because there's so many changes, so you're not gonna be able to like first game in ranked, you know, whatever if you're in silver or not, like like you're not just gonna be able to lock in a comp and then win against every hero in the game, you know, like so.
And then on top of that, you've got like such, and again, take it with a grain of salt, but look, skimming through some of those like Pharah updates, it's like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's, you have to think about the hero completely differently now. Like, is she good? Isn't she good? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. Like that, like there is so much to kind of TBD, wait and see type shit. That's like, it's a new game. We're getting a new competitive system, a new format. Maybe the ranks are reset. There probably will be a big push to, you know, bring people back in and get people reinvested into competitive Overwatch. And that's not just about pro Overwatch, but it's also ranked. And I think that kind of ties this all together, where it's just like, it's a reintegration, a refocusing on that. And hopefully we're starting to see those seeds being planted in all of these different walks of life to grow into maybe 2025, 2026 being healthy for once, which is weird to say. So we will see.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of sad, but
it's true. It's
true.
never been great. And we've had Owl to kind of prop us up for a while, but you know, let's face it, it hasn't been great for a long time, and possibly we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But
I do want to say though, I think
go ahead.
With these, I think generally speaking, in history as well, you can kind of tell for viewer experience. I personally like, that's my only, like, if these are real like with one shots, because I heard you mention it, Yiska, like you actually like one shot stuff, and of course I'm a hit scan, so I'm extremely biased on that point. But I think, and I think I've said it many times before, if you just go and watch like some old nostalgic Overwatch edit, montage, whatever it be, highlight, most of it is not a Mei freezing 5 guys in a graph. You know,
Yes.
it is your Pine absolutely aimbotting
Yes.
on Kree, right, or Cassidy or whatever. Then you have like maybe Carpe Widow clutch when like there's no reason for you to play Widow on Nepal. You know, like
Homie just does it anyways.
like what, you know, it's just crazy. But like he made that moment, and then that clip is like forever remembered.
Yeah.
Crazy like triple blink post bomb. That stuff is hard to do, but it's like viewers like they can see that stuff and they can go, damn, like that guy hopped off, you know?
Yeah, time of flake,
but
right? That wouldn't
exactly.
work.
But I feel like they've gone more and more because like then you have goats and you have Joach, whatever, you know, you have double shield, stuff like that. It's like, it's a bit. So personally, for you know, catering more to viewers and stuff, I think it's kind of important in some ways.
100%.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be one shots. Just these high skill, because people macro can be so insanely hard. Like you can have a perfect beat, and then no one will actually understand like the way, like the thought, you know, process of behind the beat, you know, or like the comms that were set, right? Like people don't see it. But there's some guy like grappling on Widow doing a 180 flick headshot.
Yep. Everybody understands. It's very readable.
Exactly. It's like damn, like that, you know, that is, you know, crazy good. So yeah, I think
nobody's pogging about fat lamps, okay, guys? Like nobody's excited when you hit a clutch lamp. Like that takes like a whole production team to be like, no, this is actually, and that's, you have missed, everybody is checked out, they're going to the bathroom, they're grabbing fucking popcorn and making Sammys, and all of that shit goes out the window. You need like readable stuff. And that's kind of what I was talking about when it came to like trying to balance the game to be more like competitive focus, where it's like, yeah, it's tough when it's like, wow, he like, and Yiska, you've talked about this, like Earth Shatter is like a big, like very identifiable, wow, they stunned 5 people. It's impactful. You feel the drama of it. It's great. But like those death ball compositions, like you said, sHockWave, it's just so like boring to be like, wow, he's picking the character that freezes you and slows you and just tickles you to death and then you die. Wow, that's, you know, great, I guess. It's just not like exciting. It's not fun. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be one shots, but it has to be something that is easily identifiable.
Yeah. I mean, I would say though, the problem is that many of those heroes, it's very, I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's easier said than done. Whereas I think some of the other changes with like rank, like reset, blah, blah, and like the weapon skins, I don't think you need like a crazy amount of people on the team to make these. Yeah. But like this, like balancing and stuff, like that's way more like finding the proper balance between what's OP and like what's good for the viewers. Because like if you have the mindset, oh, let's make it flashy and stuff, like let's buff one shots, let's buff Genji, these like crazy good montage heroes, then it's like, well, you can also just completely destroy the game by doing that, right?
Definitely.
So yeah, it's a fine balance, I think, for sure. But yeah, I would like, because I think Hitscan has kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily suffered, like Short stuff he helped a lot, but there's not so much like in dive and stuff, it's more, you know, but then you just end up playing Sombra anyway.
Yeah,
there was not really too much played. And then I remember on New York, right, then sometimes you would play Hanzo instead, and then like you would bait Hanzo and you would nano him and stuff. It was really hard to play, but it was kind of doable. But I remember because I got some highlights from that, you know.
Yeah.
And that, like you see the reaction on the stream, and you hear the casters and stuff, and they go absolutely crazy over like a good headshot, which might even have been lucky. But you know, it's just like the way like it looks, and like
it's impactful as well. It's like, oh shit, like that's a big play.
So yeah, hopefully, yeah, I mean, we can't predict it, right? We don't know for sure what's mid and stuff, but yeah, I think just with balancing, with keeping that in mind, I think is kind of important. I think. So.
Such a big patch. Hard to even get a read on things. Yeah, it's tough, but hopefully we will see. Looks like there will be a dev stream this Friday, so check that out if you do want some
looking forward to how they're going to feedback. Present that, by the way, without Matt and Zoe.
Two of the big faces of a lot of those dev streams, notably missing. So we'll see. All right, sHockWave, anything coming down the pipeline? Where can people follow you as we wrap up?
I mean, I'm I'm still looking to compete, of course, and I will compete.
There you go.
I don't know what team yet, but it will.
You got some offers. Come on, like
yeah, I do.
floating
But
around.
it will.
All right, all right.
But I think it's looking because I guess Toronto. I was kind of looking a bit in NA, but I guess since they imported,
Right.
there's not too much to be had there. So I'm probably looking at EU. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I feel pretty positive about future generally.
let me extract some last moment juice. What and you don't have to say any specifics, but how would you judge the organizational interest into European Overwatch esports? Do you think like we will see a couple of teams signed here?
I don't know about signed now. I will say though, definitely a lot of potential interest. Like teams kind of, digging their noses in, kind of seeing what this is about. But yeah, I think at the start you won't see crazy high salaries, crazy org names, stuff like that. But yeah, I can definitely say like definitely talks, and orgs and people from orgs, right? Like agents, managers, whatever their title is. Kind of seeing what's up, messaging a bit around. So yeah, I don't think some crazy investments. You're probably not gonna see imports like physically in team houses, say from Korea or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I think it would be kind of like a little mild start, and then yeah, hopefully, we see good progress and get some big names in.
More than likely, I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think it's possible though because I have a Danish passport, right? And that's like you have the Schengen countries, and I mean you can basically just like I can just go to France or Germany, right? And I go just oh yeah sure I'll just be here, So there's I think a lot less complicated in terms of contract and paper stuff in that regard. So I think that's a big like factor in terms of orgs and EU and stuff because realistically speaking, how many people in tier 2 got like say above 1K or something in salary, like in last contenders? It's probably like what 2 teams got that maybe, and the rest were, and there were still people playing contenders and arguably some decent players, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to play online, you just represent an org. Let's say you pay 1K to like each player a month. Like that's not 5 players, 5K in salary. Like that's like there's a lot of people that could just pull that out the pocket and say, this is an Overwatch team, right? So I think yeah, the amount people are like willing to take and stuff is fairly low. So I think we will see some coming because I think orgs like it's a big win if they can get in. Like,
and you have to pay a bunch of money, like 2 million, 20 million to get in. I could just, like you said, pay a couple of guys some bucks.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is. I mean, I wanna. Obviously, you could say an ambassador for Overwatch, right? Like pro esport and stuff, and I wanna sell it. But if you see it from a business perspective, I think it's a no-brainer to get in pretty early because if you can get some of the best players on like say a couple thousand in salary or whatever, like it's peanuts, and then have them stream or whatever, and then if they win, like I think you look at the min-max, like the market like the actual value you get from marketing or whatever, like yeah, come on, like yeah, I think it's totally worth. So yeah, hopefully orgs and rich business owners or whatnot are like-minded. So
ideally,
yeah, but I think maybe slow start, but I think looking good.
Buy land, right?
Over the future.
Buy land. Everybody's coming around like, oh shit, all right. Overwatch is that dream hack. There's gonna be like this big prize pool later on. Like, okay, we'll see what this is about. Dip their toes back in the water. Let's say.
Yeah, I think they have a good shot at this as well because new season, they rank reset. They got weapon skins. People have motive to grind. Like you maybe have some big streamers coming to play. And it's like, damn, this is pretty good. It's fun. It's like it feels new and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate to be optimistic within Overwatch because, damn,
look why that's modest.
Yeah, I mean you've been let down many times. But yeah, I hate to say it, but yeah, it does look pretty good, I think.
Okay.
For I would say maybe now, as I said, a little bit slow and mild at the start, but looking over the future and hopefully what they can make of it, I'm optimistic. So.
All right, that's good. I like the positive vibes. We need some PMA, you know.
And I'll just come back like 6 months later, and the Dream Egg is like it's cancelled, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh yeah, GG.
It's fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of looking, testing the waters, just seeing what's out there. Definitely eager to play. Getting that vibe. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll play as long as I feel good and like, you know, at my level. And I have fun. I think generally I don't really care what I do. Like generally in life, you know, I just kind of want to have fun with it. But yeah, it's pretty hard not to say that playing video games for a living isn't fun. So, you know.
I think that's a good outlook. It's a great outlook to view this on. Yiska, anything coming down? Anything you're working on?
I mean, 2 interviews are queued up. It's probably more next week thing. Getting some bearings, getting some inside information, getting some interpretations of where this is going, forecasts, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Maybe still some, you know, learnings from the last couple of years, and then we'll see.
We will see. Beautiful. So stay tuned for all Yiska's interviews on GG Recon. Are any of those YouTube focused?
Yes. I think
there you
both
go.
of them
Gotta
will
go to
likely
YouTube.
Be. Yeah.
GG Recon's YouTube. Go like and subscribe. Go watch the interviews. Yiska's always putting out great shit. And that is going to be it for 332. Thank you again, sHockWave, for coming in and chatting with us. We will see you guys next week, hopefully with more OWCS news and maybe a better look at what Season 9 has for us. So until then, stay safe. GG's. We'll see you next week.
Yep. GG's. You guys.